What's up, guys? This is going to be for Love Part 1, Taurus, November 2021. Feel free to reach out for a one on one reading. Feel free to like, share, follow, subscribe, um, donate, reach out to me if you need Cash App info. Typically, I include it in Instagram posts as well. I'm always open to donations to keep this going, basically. And I can't do it without you guys, so I appreciate your support. Check over the Patreon. Go over to the Patreon to support as well. It's only $3 a month, helping get the good vibes out there and the good messages and all that. But yeah, I'm always available for spiritual advice with or without tarot reading. You can check out my website. Description and link should be below, as well as all my other social media stuff should be linked on the website. The Patreon link is below. I just kind of want to share a little bit of insight, as to what I'm going through right now. My girlfriend of a year, is basically kind of like moving out and railroading the situation. I woke up to her and like a couple of her friends basically just like packing boxes and moving out. So needless to say, I'm like definitely shocked and just like, a part of me is gutted, but then another part of me is like, where I'm at as far as my spirituality, I am like, I'm at the point where like I'm aware that I'm the observer of my thoughts and feelings and emotions, and they don't limit me or define me. So a part of the spirituality that I practice and look into and love and live by is taught by a man named Muji on YouTube, and that is a part of like this kind of Buddhist Hinduist kind of practice and teachings historically, and it's about kind of being the observer of the thinking and the feeling and not identifying with it, and to know that the only kind of real and true thing is presence, is pure being before language, even because language is just basically a placeholder in lieu of trying to communicate something other than the essence itself. So we're all connected to that source and that essence, and it's featureless, it's colorless, it just is, it's isness, but it's no thing, it's not a thing, it's not a tangible thing, it's just what we are, and it's beyond the vehicle of our body and all that stuff. So that kind of really helps me understand that I'm not just connected in this limited kind of time and space of sadness and emotion. And I think that there's a difference between like repressing and pushing down your feelings, but also kind of trying to understand the value of trying to give this emotional, content value, which is like, if I'm, basically the apartments is in transition of getting moved out of. So there's boxes packed, so it's like you want to look at things and you want to, sorry about that, you want to feel sentiment and sadness about certain things, but at the same time, when I have this kind of higher understanding of what all of this means, it's hard to kind of just enable myself to. I'm so sorry for that. I didn't mean for that to happen. The camera just fell. It's kind of hard to enable pity partying and crying for myself and over sadness, because I could view the sadness and I know that it's just a thing passing, like the storm of a cloud or something like that in the sky. And I think that emotions really only get power when we kind of give it value. And so it's an inner look at our own value systems. And it's kind of interesting that we're doing a reading about love right now for December, and the woman that broke up with me or moved out, really, is what she's doing is a Taurus herself. So it's, in a weird way, we're kind of going to be peeping into maybe what she's going through energetically, or just Taurus in general. It doesn't necessarily have to be that, but I just thought that I should mention that. That being said, this is going to be part one, and of course, feel free to reach out with questions or concerns. I wouldn't mind sharing or discussing my own situation with you. But primarily, I just wanted to mention that that's kind of what I'm going through. So if I'm not able to put as much content out there, or if I seem like I'm going through something, that's kind of what I'm going through. But I'm being strong. God gives you an opportunity to be strong and show you where you're at, and allows you to express yourself where you're at. And I think that I'm actually in a good place for this to occur in my life. So I'm gonna post part 1 on YouTube for free. Again, Taurus December Love 2021, and then I'm gonna post part 2 on the Patreon. So you could go over there and subscribe to gain access to that. It's only $3 a month, guys. You help the good energy, you help the community, you help me. You know, I can't do this without you. And you know, you're just helping kind of raise the vibration by investing in this channel, and that allows me to put positive, you know, life altering, for a good cause, for in a positive direction, content out there that helps people. So, you know, I love you guys and I appreciate you guys, and I really do look at this as like a way of connecting. You know, I'm in Los Angeles. I relocated from Chicago in 2015, and to be honest, I don't have any friends out here, and it's been like 5 or 6 years. So, you know, I would love to connect with you guys more and have relationships that I could be, you know, spiritual with and communicate on that level with people. I read for 2 psychic hotlines, and I like to connect with people in that way as well. I do Uber deliveries, and I like to think that in all like the little pots that I have my hand in, that there's some sort of human interaction that I could kind of lean on. But yeah, all my family was in Chicago, so it's just kind of like, and all my friends that I grew up with, they're kind of like into drinking and smoking and drugs and like negativity, and they don't really take care of themselves. So I'm kind of like, I've been trying to distance myself away from them, so I don't even have like a group chat with them. So it's just kind of like one of those things where it's like you're trying to excel and grow spiritually, but people around you are dropping left and right like flies. But at the same time, I gotta have faith and believe in God and source and the higher self and all these beautiful good things. And you know, I have a mom that loves me. I have family that loves me back home, and I try to talk to her as much as I can. And you know, I give value to that too. So, and I also give value to my happiness and to the fact that like I could use that, you know, focus, even if it's a mantra, you know, the happy mantra, you know, when you're getting welled up with emotion and it hurts or whatever, you know, I go into my happy mantra, because I do think that a part of it is like, look at the biological function of feeling sadness or sorrow is to create the bond, is for survival purposes. Now, I'm not trying to be completely cold and callous and removed from emotions, but there are certain things to mourn, and then there are other things that are just not worth it. And I think, unfortunately, you know, I was with this person for a year, like deeply in love, deep love with her, between the two of us, and it's like, but for her to just kind of up and move and pack and have her friends like, and her railroad me, and her, you know, we got into a little argument where I basically kind of like put my hands on her shoulder and was like trying to get her attention like you would like a 10-year-old. Like, she's looking all every which way, and like I did raise my voice. I was like, no, I have a point, like listen to me. And you know, I think she kind of took that and used that to play, you know, a victim role. And I think that she was looking for a way out. And I think a part of like, you know, she wanted more, but she didn't know how to go about communicating that. And I was in a vulnerable position where, you know, I'm trying to do a non-traditional way of living and existing, and that's by, you know, doing Uber deliveries, doing tarot for 2 websites, playing the stock market, and investing in crypto and NFTs, like non-traditional route. I worked at a 9 to 5 traditional, you know, where I was chained to a desk for 12 years. I'm 32. For over a third of my life, I did that. I've been in schooling my whole life, you know. I thank God. That's not a bad thing. That's a privilege. But before marriage, before mouths to feed, you know, I wanted to go to the non-traditional route. And that's what I've been doing. But come to find out, lo and behold, she's been holding and harboring and building all these resentments towards me. And my kind of message to her is to look within as to why there are resentments, and why are you giving energy and fuel to those resentments. And I think that under all that is like fear and anxiety of like, oh my God, what's going to happen? She's 34 going on 35 in April, and she wants family and marriage and kids and a house, the whole shebang. And my thing is, well, guess how you get that? You get that by having a solid, stable foundation emotionally in relationship to a significant other. You don't just demand someone and manipulate someone into getting a job and expect them to just be this kind of like tail between their legs. I'm just going to do whatever you say. So that was my position as far as standing up for myself. And, you know, and I stand by that because I do feel like you have to kind of draw the line of like, you know, not doing something for someone else's sake, because that's a breeding ground for resentment. And if I'm in a position where I'm already feeling resentment, I look at as to why I feel resentful. And I was asking her to do that. We kind of rushed in moving together a year ago in the middle of the pandemic around November, or at least in sometime into the pandemic, and we had met like that August before, so everything happened really quick. Yeah, I've really only known her for like August, September, October, November, a year and 4 months. So what is that, like 16 months? And it just, I don't know, people's true colors come out over time, and I just would never have done that. We didn't have a heart to heart. She kind of just like made a snap decision to shut the door and lock me out and railroad me and move. And for me, regardless of if I raise my voice, because she's the kind of person where like she throws tantrums and has crying fits and all that stuff. And she doesn't have any of that kind of like emotional like inner strength to the point of like keeping your composure. That there's some like instances of like mental and emotional instability, and she would kind of lash out in that way, not physically or violently, but like have breakdowns and screaming fits and all that stuff. And it was always when we were at like a good peaceful point in our lives. And I think that there was a mechanism within her where she was always just like more, I want more. But I was always like, we have to slow down and like build and let the flower bloom naturally. And to me, it just feels as though she just feels like she's in control and in charge of everything. And I feel like there's a lot of grace and a lot of divine timing and a lot of God and involved, behind the scenes. And it's not just, on your time and on your dime. And I just feel like she went about it a completely wrong, inappropriate way. And I think she kind of took the angle of like, okay, I'm, women's empowerment and in therapy, and I'm just making this snap decision or whatever, as opposed to really kind of changing herself, really kind of forcing herself to grow through meditation and spirituality, and really slowing down and focusing. And she's the type of person to do like 12 things at once. And, and I understand that we all have free will at the end of the day, and that's her free will. But when there's someone else involved, when it's love involved, and when it's resentment, and you're allowing resentment to have the final say as opposed to love, then that just tells me that you're not doing the inner work. She had a lot of hate in her heart. Like when we would get in arguments or disagreements, she would say like, I hate you. Whereas like I would never say that, because I never had hate or malice in my heart for her. It was always love, like even in our disagreements or arguments. And that's kind of telling too, because I feel like she was bringing that to the equation. But yeah, I could go on and on. This is therapeutic, so I appreciate you guys, if you're watching this or listening to this. But so yeah, that's where I'm at. That's what I'm doing. I'll probably make the second half of this about Taurus, and I'll just title this, like update as to where I'm at, and then I'll just say like skip to 14-minute mark to, get the Taurus reading. But okay, Spirit of Gratitude, Joy, Live, and Land, highest possible messages for Taurus love, December 2021. Let's see what wants to come out here. Taurus love, December 2021, part 1. Again, part 2 will be on Patreon. Sorry, I was just thinking out loud, or thinking to myself. So it's very funny and very interesting that the Five of Wands, this is an energy of conflict. Wands are about action, conflicting actions, non-agreed upon. Ace of Swords allows for internal clarity and reflection, I think, which is always good. Ten of Cups, this is happiness and harmony. Now, if we're using, the girlfriend Taurus or the ex, whatever, I don't even know where our relationship, I don't know if it's just over and done with or if she's just moving out, or I don't know what's going on, but she's planning on going back to Atlanta for, like 8 weeks or something. And of course, it's during like Thanksgiving and Christmas that she does this, which is even more like heartless. She was supposed to go back to Atlanta for Thanksgiving anyways. She was actually there like a week or two ago because of her sister's. Her sister had a baby shower, and whatever. She came back and we were this. We were Ten of Cups. We were high water mark, doing good, and then literally the morning after, like she had come back. We had a great night. We were making love. Sorry if it's TMI, too much information, but she woke me up berating me about me sleeping in till like 1, because I go to sleep at like 3 in the morning and I sleep for like a good 9 hours or whatever. And she was like berating me and using that against me, and I think that that's where her bitterness and resentment is, that she like gets up early to work different kind of like administrative jobs for people, and I get to cast my hours however I want them to be. But she was like trying to gaslight me and manipulate me and tell me that that was me being lazy, and I'm like, girl, I work every single day no matter what, whether it's tarot, stocks, food delivery, crypto, my own workouts, keeping up with my own physical health and spiritual health, meditatively and all that stuff. Like, I am one thing, I may be, a lot of things, but I'm not lazy and all that stuff. So, but I took the bait, and, I was pulled down, and, she kind of used it as a way out in my mind. So it kind of tells me like that would have happened anyways. It would have happened anyways. Her kind of gilding the lily and whatever. But anyways, Ten of Cups high watermark. The reason I bring it up is because that reminds me of like the fact that she is going home for the holidays. That's a high watermark for family and relationships, and God love her, God bless her and them, whatever. I don't have malice or ill will towards them or her, but that's reaching some sort of high watermark. Ten of Cups in the upright after some conflict, after some internal reflection. And you know what? If that's what's best for her, then fine. But I don't agree how she went about it, and that's just where it's at. Do I think, people can still find happiness after doing something like that? Possibly, but again, that trying to like retaliate or gain retribution or justice, or trying to be the one that brings about justice, that would be an egoic form of responding, to be like, oh, I'm gonna sabotage, I'm gonna throw her clothes in the street, and I'm gonna she was a financial investor in my stocks, Running Gun Tarot. By the way, if you want to be a financial investor, holler at your boy. Trying to get the account to over 25K so we could do some day trading, which is where the money's at. But so obviously the devil on my shoulder was like, I'm not gonna get, don't give her back her money, and emotional damages and all that stuff. But the other part of me, the bigger part of me, is like, two wrongs don't make a right, so but yeah, I'm gonna try to make it on my own with this apartment, or if I could keep the money stream coming in, hopefully move out maybe to something more practical, living wise. But who knows? I think this is an opportunity to kind of challenge myself too. Maybe to even like get like a work from home desk job, in which case, excuse me, I'm just like wiping my mouth. In which case, like, that would have been on my terms, to the extent of like, I have to do that to make ends meet, as opposed to doing that because someone else wants you to do that because they want marriage and kids and all that stuff. It's like, I wouldn't have, it just didn't seem like the right way to go, or the right reason to do something, if it's not coming out of me genuinely wanting to do that. It just seems like manipulation. So, but as opposed to like, if I need to do something to make overhead costs, then yeah, I would obviously have to do that. But any other way of doing that would it just wouldn't seem right. It just wouldn't feel or seem right. But that's my stance on it. And apologies to get personal, more personal and keep on touching base, but it's kind of a framework to kind of explain this reading, I guess. And obviously, feel free to apply the narrative if for your situation that's probably different. Strength card in the reverse is internal strength, moral victory with the Six of Wands in reverse. I like to take these readings and apply them to myself anyways, because I think that you could take this Taurus reading and be like, oh, the Taurus is going to have a victory, like a moral victory. They did the right thing. But I like to, subscribe to the idea that we all have all the different astrological signs within us, starting with the head, that's Aries, the shoulders are Taurus, the feet are Pisces, the organs and the sexual organs are Scorpio, and it just goes on and on. But so, and then you could get into the astrological houses and how they apply and where our planetary alignments were during our birth, looking at our natal chart. But I do think that there's some Ten of Cups, happiness at the end of the conflict in general for everybody. A lot of internal strength and discipline to kind of persevere. Let's see what wants to come out. And like I said, some are, one hero in their own story is someone else's villain or what have you. So the moral victory, but then also the Two of Cups. So this is kind of maybe even a situation prevailing despite how it looks. Maybe some time away from family will help this person, figure things out and figure out, hey, I don't want to throw everything away quite just yet. But that's on them, and all you can do is be present and focus on, whatever it is that you have in front of you. I think that we all have some kind of morality to kind of stick to, is what the Six of Wands in reverse is telling me. And the Two of Cups, like I said, this is a soulmate relationship. This is a connection or a choice of an exchange of energies that wants to come through. Emperor in the reverse, yes, I'm Aries, so that could be my energy, but it could also be Taurus, and obviously everyone else who is in Aries' energy. Emperor in the reverse just means that maybe you're being tyrannical, a control freak, you're playing small, you're playing to lesser energies, and not to feed a fed horse, but that was my opinion as to how she went about things. But maybe it was for the sake of freeing yourself up. But in any event, World card in reverse is this is not over quite yet. For me, special emphasis on the morality of going about things. I came out before this kind of moving in with, this person, my girlfriend. And before us moving in, I was in an unfortunate situation where I was helping a family get established out in California. I was paying over $300 more each month on rent. And they just didn't step up. They didn't take on more financially. Two grown adults with 3 children, and they weren't working, and they weren't doing. They weren't showing me that they appreciated it or wanted to step up and balance the scales. And in a weird way, I think negatively speaking, my mind wants to compare that situation with this situation. But I would say that the substance is non-comparable, because the substance is having to do with love and relationship with me and the girlfriend at the time. I don't even know if we're still together, but that was based on love and emotion and all that stuff. And if you're finding that your significant other is still working, is still putting in the effort, I quit drinking and smoking what is it, March 2020. So it hasn't been forever and a day ago, but it has been over a year. Yeah, it's been at least a year and 8 months maybe. So it's whereas the people that I was living with, they were selling weed out of their house, and I know I'm being a square, but it's we're in California, but they were illegally selling weed, and they were treating it like a trap house with little kids running around, and they were just being ghetto and just to me, in my mind, not good people. They were like, you know, stealing from certain people on certain occasions. I think they even stole like my laundry money, my laundry card, like just shadiness. And when you see that, that to me an example of like that to me is an example of like the dad like stabbed someone before, like in Chicago. And to me that's like, okay, negative toxic energies that I need to get away from. But to me, for this situation, to me this situation is like, no, if you're in love with someone, then they should be able to do the work and look within themselves. Me, I just saw stubbornness and lack of communication, and that's all I've ever touted in this relationship was like communicate, focus on your spiritual center, meditate, don't try to do a million things at once, don't always be go go go. Especially, she's a comedian, she's into like screenplay writing, and pitching shows and out in Hollywood. We're in Los Angeles, so it's like she kind of is bit by the bug of like go go go, more success. And to me that just I just don't agree with it. I think that there's a matter of being productive, but not at the behest of like communication, or not for the sake of like distracting yourself. So in a weird way, like my own mind wants to like kind of compare moralities, but just using those my personal examples as comparing morality. Yes, the one side of me that wants to beat myself up says like, oh, you did the same thing because you moved away from them and you left them with this financial debt or whatever. But guess what? I was with them for almost 2 years, paying more than my fair share of rent. They had more than their fair share of the square footage. I had my one room and bathroom, and they had the whole front room and kitchen and their room and their bathroom. And that was a situation that I put myself in out of the kindness of my heart, thinking that I'm going to help these people, and these people are going to be good enough people to step up and take on more of a financial responsibility once they got established in California. But that never happened. And so that allowed me to grow resentful and, say I need to get out of here. But I think I feel like that's kind of warranted to the extent that like, excuse me, guys, you have kids and it's 2 grown adults. Like you should be, being man and woman enough to step up and be like, we're gonna like pay for more and we're gonna do more. And they kind of like they didn't continue to include me in their family when I started to ask for like their share of rent. And so I just saw this kind of like lack of willingness to be humble and to show that kind of like understanding and reciprocation. So I extricated myself, and in doing so I rushed into moving with this person, obviously not thinking that they're just going to pull out after a year and whatever. Because me, like when I love deep and hard, and it's like I'm here, like I'm not going to just get up and go. And it's just sad when someone is able to just cut the cord and just get up and go, and they just don't have that kind of like sustainability that to me is like the definition of real love, is like that sustainability. Not the money, not the succumbing to fear and anxiety of like, I want more and you can't provide it. Like to me that's a cop out for if you're with somebody, you should love them enough to give them time to and support, for that matter, their entrepreneurial endeavors, because that's something that you can do. That's something that you can do, is believe and support them and give them the benefit of the doubt. Like I said, I'd been working a traditional job, and she was out doing comedy in Chicago for like 10 years, running around getting drunk at bars and doing improv, and like while I was busting my butt. And yes, the bitter part of me is like, where were you then, when I was doing something traditional? But things happen for a reason. I do think that she did, I think objectively, like spiritually, help extricate me from a toxic and negative living situation with that family. But and God works in mysterious ways. But again, on the human level, I was like, you're not supposed to just pull out and up and move out without trying to solve it and resolve it. And if I didn't see that it was because of like her own mental and emotional instabilities and her own kind of like pressure cooker standards that were causing her to crack and buckle, then you know I probably would look at all this and feel differently. But I know that it was to a self-sabotaging effect, that she was like purposely like disturbing the peace, and purposely not allowing things to kind of come in at their own rate and time, and that was probably by way of lack of faith and trust. And you know so I guess she bailed. But like I said, if you're left with yourself, me, myself, and I, all you gotta do is just focus on your love and God and family, and what connections you do have. Then you gotta go with that. There's an emphasis on morality here. Trying to pull the ripcord with operating from a tyrannical lesser tendency with the Eight of Swords here, but that leading to some unfinished business. Let's get a cliffhanger card, and then we could go over to part 2 on the Patreon. I really appreciate you guys if you actually listened through all of this. This was kind of cathartic, but let me see what wants to come out as a cliffhanger, something that you need to know that we can use as a segue to part 2, December Love 2021 Taurus. So yeah, the Nine of Cups in the reverse is an emotional coping mechanism. It points to the Eight of Cups in the upright, a negative emotional coping mechanism, pointing to the Eight of Cups in the upright, which is walking away. And again, the Nine of Cups in the reverse. This is kind of a negative emotional pattern and tendency. And again, not to throw her under the bus, but to use her as an example. She did have a kind of like a shaky past of relationships, and like people cheating on her, people leaving her, people ghosting her, or lack of stability. She was in like a 6-year relationship, and it led to nowhere. This person bailed on her when they were supposed to move to LA together, and it's like, I just feel like the way she did this was like self-sabotage, because she felt like, oh, she wasn't seeing growth in me or whatever, and yet I was doing so at the rate and pace in which I thought was fit. And I'm definitely not going to meet someone and just get married to them and knock them up, pardon my language, but in just less than 2 years of knowing them. You have to grow. You have to know what they're about. You have to know that they're in it for you, and not what they can do, and not what you can do for them. So that was my kind of stance and position. So I just see her as like acting out in this kind of negative way. So if this resonates with you, just make sure not to act in this negative way. Make sure to kind of try to look at your emotions objectively, and don't let them, or don't let your ego kind of knock you off your kind of path. Now, of course, a part of me is beating myself up because I did raise my voice, and I did get angry, and I did kind of like, not in like a physically harmful way, but I did kind of put my arms on her, like, listen to me, I have a point, like, don't just ignore me and say you got to go to work and walk away from me. Like, I deserve at least this much respect where you could just listen to me and hear me out. Now, that was a negative kind of acting out in like this kind of emotional way. But my thing is that, like, again, I feel as though she was looking for a way out. So she was kind of like, again, in the self-sabotaging tendency of when things are calm and peaceful, then she's going to start to like cause chaos. And at that point, that was me telling her that she doesn't have any right to do that. But to the point where then she used that as a reason to get out. And my thing is that, like, well, if you're looking for a way out, then that would have happened anyways at some time or another. So I don't know if that's necessarily something that you could, work with if they're steady kind of building a case against you and holding resentment. So definitely one for not holding resentment or harboring ill will or things of that nature. That's what's being advised with the Nine of Cups in reverse. Let's go over to part 2 for the conclusion of this epic reading, this epic story time. Appreciate you guys again for listening still. Patreon link is below. You can scroll through and find part 2, Taurus Love, December 2021. We'll try to get some objective conclusions, but my apologies in advance if this is more personal stuff. But again, I'm going to try to give you guys the objective too, so you can apply it to your situation. I know everybody's going through something different, but love and light to you guys. This is where we part ways. I appreciate you watching this and listening to this. I will be posting part 1 of the rest of the signs readings on the YouTube for free, so there's always good value there. But again, if you subscribe to Patreon, that would be kind of major, and it would mean the world to me. So I love you guys, appreciate you, and as always, holler at your boy. Love you guys. Peace. Okay, part 2, Patreon. I'll see you there.